This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
This is The World Today, 15 minutes of the latest news from around the world. I am Peninah Karibe. Coming up, Cyprus identifies a new coronavirus variant that's a combination of Delta and Omicron. Dozens are killed as armed militants target villages in northwest Nigeria. And excitement in Cameroon ahead of Africa Cup of Nations tournament opening this afternoon. A new coronavirus variant dubbed Deltacron has been identified in Cyprus. As the name indicates, it shares the genetic background of the Delta variant along with some of the mutations of Omicron. The country's health authorities say it's not a source of concern at the moment. Cyprus is currently facing a fifth wave of the pandemic, with daily cases reaching around 5,500. Most cases are young people with an average age of 28. The U.S. has been seeing an infection spike. Data suggests an average of over 660,000 daily cases were recorded in the past 7 days. That means 8 people were confirmed as COVID infections every second. The week started with a record number of more than 1 million cases recorded on Monday. This has further strained the healthcare systems. Hospitalizations are poised to hit a new high across the country. In New York, about 40 hospitals have been ordered to stop elective surgeries due to low bed capacity. They must turn away non-essential and non-urgent surgeries for a minimum of 2 weeks. In Pakistan, at least 22 people have died in their vehicles stranded by heavy snow in the mountain resort town of Murree. Some of the victims' bodies have been brought to Islamabad. Officials said most of the victims died of hypothermia. Rescuers said temperatures had fallen to -8 degrees Celsius overnight. The Interior Minister said around 1,000 vehicles were stranded Saturday. Recovery and rescue operations continue. Daniel Khan has more.
Well, reportedly, the Met Office has issued specific warnings of extreme weather conditions last week, warning of heavy snowfall in Murree and other areas. It received over 17 inches of snowfall just in one day. But despite these warnings, hundreds of thousands of people fled to witness the snowfall. The local administration says there is only a capacity of 30,000 vehicles, but over 150,000 cars reached Murree. And when the snowstorm began, there was nothing anyone could do. And now rescue and search operations have begun. Relief centers have been set up. Authorities say that it was basically the negligence in the part of the tourists who took the risk and endangered their own lives as well as the lives of their families. Well, a state of emergency has been imposed in the affected areas and movement of traffic into Murree has been banned for the next 24 hours to clear the traffic jams. Military and paramilitary troops have been called in to assist the civil administration to rescue the thousands of people still trapped in different areas of Murree. Authorities and rescuers fear that the death toll may rise as several roads are still inaccessible. Though the main expressway has been cleared, many are still blocked, and relief and rescue operations are still continuing. Hotels have been opened up for the stranded tourists, and food and supplies are also being provided along with medical assistance.
The Nigerian government says 58 people have been killed in the northwestern state of Zamfara during an attack by armed bandits. This comes after military airstrikes on their hideouts earlier in the week. Residents say in all, more than 150 people have been killed and buried, and the total death toll is at least 200. No group has yet claimed responsibility for Saturday's attack. Let's get more on this. We have our correspondent Tessa Makende joining us live from Jos in Nigeria. Tessa, officially the government says 56 people died in the Zamfara attacks, but villagers say the victims are in the hundreds. Why is it a challenge to get detailed information from the villages where the attacks occurred?
Yeah, many times when these attacks happen, many people live for safety. They leave the areas for safety. So getting the actual details becomes a problem, it becomes a challenge, because it is what you see on the ground that you would actually get as facts and figures. So when it happens, a lot of people get displaced, and in the course of being displaced, some of them even lose their lives. And so it becomes a very big problem. There is also the place, if what the governor of Zamfara state says is anything to go by, there is also the place of politics. Enemies of the state will bring out figures, many times bloated figures as it were, just to make things or paint things look larger or worse than they actually are. So these are some of the intricacies, these are some of the problems that come with data when these kind of situations happen. But the government would always want the people to believe that what they are actually saying is the truth, as opposed to 200, 150, and maybe 100 figures being the casualties released from different sources. The government is saying just more than 50, less than even 60 died in the course of the incident, in 22 in Anka local government and over 30 in Bukuyum. And of course know that the government has all the security paraphernalia with the officials going there. So many times it is just what they will tell or what the figures they will bring out that will have people will actually believe, because for unforeseen circumstances and attacks coming, they have all the security agencies backing them up where they actually visit these places. The governor was there yesterday and day before yesterday trying to commiserate with the people who have lost loved ones and many who are actually injured. So these are the intricacies that surround these kind of situations when they actually happen.
Now, reports indicate it was a case of reprisal by bandits after airstrikes by the military on their hideouts. Tell us more about these bandits and the attempts to contain them.
Yeah, these bandits carry out a lot of dangerous things, a lot of harmful things. They kill, they kidnap for ransom, and recently we've had them, deterring locals from going to their farms to carry out their, which have been their mainstay most of the time. So they carry out a lot of dangerous things. They've left so many people displaced at the moment. They carry out so many terror activities. You know, they are basically criminal gangs, as it were, but locally we call them bandits. They are known as bandits more here in Nigeria. Reasons behind why they do this, there's a place of unemployment. Following our reports over time, we've interacted with sociologists, we've interacted with different people as to why these attacks have remained unabated or have continued by these bandits. There's also the place of resource control. Places like Zamfara have huge deposits of gold and other very rich minerals. So there's that quest to take charge of territories. There's that quest to, have control of certain, areas just to have the good that comes from it. So there are so many things around their activities. The government is actually trying to ensure that they are dealt with. The president recently declared them as terrorists. And so we'll be expecting that in the coming days, they'll be dealt with more squarely by the security forces. Recently, we had the government took receipt of the Super Tucano aircraft from the US and other armory and other ammunition coming in. So we hope that in the coming days, there'll be more peace, not just in Zamfara, but other states within the northwest region that have really been, bedeviled by these criminal gangs.
All right, Tessa Makende, live for us in Jos, Nigeria. Thank you. Excitement has been building in Cameroon over the start of the Africa Cup of Nations that kicks off on Sunday. Fans have been spending hours tracking down tickets for the first match in Cameroon's capital as vendors run out of tickets. The West African nation has had an anxious run-up to the championship, with concerns raised over incomplete building works, security issues in some regions, and the threat of coronavirus as large numbers of players and staff descend on the under-resourced country. All spectators will need to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination to enter stadiums, and encouragement for some fans.
It's a really long story. I walked a lot with my father. Since this morning, we've gone to all the ticket booths and all the town halls, but all the tickets were gone. So we had the idea that there was a town hall in the Cuisine. So we came here after getting vaccinated.
I came to get vaccinated because I would like to go and see the Cameroon match against Burkina Faso in Olembe for the very first time. I would really like to enjoy Cameroon's 2-0 victory.
We are very proud to have organized this. You see, we are in the streets to make the streets and the city beautiful with the flags because we are happy that the African Cup of Nations is in our country. We are happy to have organized for AFCON. It's true that at the last minute, they almost took it from us. But thanks to Samuel Eto'o, the number 9, who made sure it was going to happen, so we are happy.
7 people have been killed and dozens injured in Brazil after the face of a cliff collapsed on a group of boaters. Viewers may find the images disturbing. The video shows small boats moving slowly towards the sheer rock cliff on Funas Lake. A fissure appeared in the rock and a huge slab toppled onto at least 2 of the vessels. It's believed recent heavy rain could have caused the rockfall. Russia says it's disappointed by signals from the U.S. ahead of talks over Ukraine. The two sides are meeting on Monday in Geneva to discuss Russia's concerns over NATO and its support for Ukraine. Reuters has reported U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken telling a European official that any further Russian aggression into Ukraine would lead to a severe response. Nathan King has more.
Pretty crucial talks going into this week. We have the number 2, Wendy Sherman from the State Department, and the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Rabkov, meeting in Geneva, ostensibly for Washington. At least this is about diffusing what they call a crisis on the Ukraine border with what they say is a Russian plan to potentially invade with 100,000 troops. Of course, Moscow has denied this. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, wants it to be about more than that. They basically essentially want a guarantee that NATO will not expand eastwards. This is a holdover from the Cold War. Essentially, Russia feels it was promised that after the end of the Soviet Union that NATO would not expand. It has done, as you know, from Poland to the Baltic states and elsewhere. And they've made no secret of perhaps Ukraine, Georgia and others joining. This is unacceptable for Vladimir Putin and Russian national interests. It's going to be very interesting to see how these talks are also overshadowed by what's going on in Kazakhstan, as Russia and other regional actors have sent in peacekeepers there. It's going to be also an interesting balance between what the US has threatened as crippling sanctions if Russia does in fact make a move into Ukraine, and what the Russians are basically saying is that they want to restudy the whole security architecture of the region, considering that they feel surrounded. Now, of course, the Americans have been consulting with their NATO allies. They have been saying to Moscow they will not move without them. There are also going to be meetings following the meetings in Geneva with Russia and NATO, with the US and their NATO partners, and elsewhere as well. I mean, to say that there is a threat of war is perhaps overstating it, but what we do realize in this post-Cold War relationship between Washington and Moscow, there's been a litany of misunderstandings and mistrust. That has never been higher between the Biden administration and the government in Moscow under Vladimir Putin. And these talks hopefully will at least de-escalate the situation in Ukraine and provide a window for more talks as well.
And that's it for this edition of The World Today. I'll be back shortly with more news from across Africa on Africa Live. Thanks for watching.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Villagers returning after bandits killed dozens in Nigeria's Zamfara state. West Africa Regional Bloc meets to discuss Mali's proposal to delay democratic elections. And Africa Cup of Nations tournament kicks off this afternoon in Cameroon as the hosts face off with Burkina Faso. This is Africa Live. Hello and thank you for joining us. I am Peninah Karibe in Nairobi. The Nigerian government says 58 people have been killed in the northwestern state of Zamfara during an attack by armed bandits. This comes after military airstrikes on their hideouts earlier in the week. Residents say in all, more than 150 people have been killed and buried, and the total death toll is at least 200. No group has yet claimed responsibility for Saturday's attack. After a turbulent build-up and still under a cloud of doubt, the Africa Cup of Nations finally gets underway in Cameroon on Sunday. Both Cameroon and Burkina Faso national teams fine-tuned their preparation on Saturday ahead of the opening game. Cameroon needs to start the competition well if they want the Cameroonians to fully support the team. Burkina Faso forward Bertrand Traoré said the team is well prepared despite the COVID measures because players are already used to them at club level. This edition of the competition has been twice postponed. First, in 2019, when the Confederation of African Football found the country was not ready and took it to Egypt instead, and again last January because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I know that Cameroon has been waiting for this competition. I think in terms of atmosphere, there's no worries. We need to try hard to start the competition well. It's how we play that will encourage the Cameroonians to fully support us. We are ready and I think we will do it.
Nous sommes préparés et je pense que nous allons le faire.
We have a well-prepared team, even though there were some difficulties due to the pandemic. But it's been a while now. We started to get used to live with this pandemic in our clubs. So it's not as we arrive here that we'll start complaining. I think we are well prepared. We are expecting game with a big atmosphere. We're playing the host country. We are ready to start this competition.
From Cameroon, let's bring in Jie Eno, the head of Sports Cameroon Radio. He joins us live via Zoom from Yaoundé. Jie, what is the mood in Yaoundé and what kind of fan attendance do we expect for the opening ceremony and the first march?
Well, good morning, Peninah, and thanks for joining me in Yaoundé. I mean, I'm taking this call from the International Vaccination Center of Yaoundé. You could see behind me that there are a couple of fans in here who've come to take their COVID-19 vaccines to be able to get into the stadium. There's great effervescence. The razzmatazz that comes with organizing such continental jamborees is evident along the streets, along the various cities in Cameroon. And a few minutes ago, I was at the Paul Biya Stadium in Olembe, the theater of today's opening ceremony, and where the host Cameroon will take on Burkina Faso, and it's full. I mean, it's jammed packed, and there are a lot of football diehards who are struggling as much as possible to get to the surrounding pubs to be able to get a glimpse of the first game, to also witness the opening ceremony. There is great effervescence, and like you did well to mention, I mean, this excitement is triggered by the fact that Cameroonians have been waiting for this tournament for quite some time. It was slated to take place in 2019, pushed forward to 2021, and now it's taking place. There's been a lot of controversy around this competition, but at long last, the country can finally host this tournament.
At long last, like you said. So how are the venues being secured, both in terms of general security and also COVID-19 protocols?
I mean, I'll start with COVID-19 protocol. It's quite simple. For fans and reporters to get into the stadium, they have to take their vaccines, they have to take a COVID jab, and also return a negative PCR test. I mean, the effervescence here a few minutes ago was amazing, with a lot of fans coming here to take their jabs, a few others trying as much as possible to run their PCR test. to be able to get into the stadium this afternoon. Now, let's talk about security. There's been a cloud cast over the organization of this tournament because of security concerns, especially in the southwest region that will be hosting Pool F. Where a secessionist movement called Ambazonia Forces are lobbying for the restoration or for the creation of a country called Ambazonia. They have threatened that this tournament will not go on smoothly. But again, officials of the Cameroonian government are bent on having this tournament stationed in that part of the country. And you can imagine that security has been more than doubled. We've had the police deploy a greater number of officers on the streets, the National Gendarmerie, and in that part of the country, that's in the southwest region, which is home to Boya and Limbe, we have military officers that are also patrolling the streets. So there's a great security protocol around this tournament, especially as the state authorities are keen on ensuring that this tournament pans out smoothly.
We appreciate that update. Thank you very much. Njie Eno joining us live via Zoom from Yaoundé in Cameroon. South Africa's governing ANC party is celebrating its 110th anniversary. These celebrations are referred to as the January 8th Statement. The ANC January 8th Statement is used to chart a way forward for the year ahead. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa outlined his party's priorities for the year at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane in Limpopo province. In an address during the birthday celebrations, Ramaphosa said the ANC needs to accelerate economic recovery and ensure that social services are provided to all citizens. Ramaphosa also said the country has in recent years experienced actions that have the effect of subverting the country's constitutional democracy. This includes the recent fire that tore through the Parliament building in Cape Town and the deadly July riots sparked by the jailing of his predecessor Jacob Zuma. The celebrations come as the party is dealing with an image that has been battered by internal squabbles and corruption allegations in its ranks. As the ANC celebrates 110 years, CGTN's Robert Nagila gives a brief background of the party.
The African National Congress was formed on January 8, 1912 in Bloemfontein. Its goal was to defend the rights and freedoms of Africans. In 1919, the ANC led its first major campaign against movement passes in Transvaal. Passes controlled workers' movements and where they could live to make sure there was enough labor for white farmers and mine owners. The following year, it supported a militant strike by African mine workers. In the 1920s, government policies became harsher and more segregationist. In 1944, the ANC Youth League was formed. Its leadership included Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and Oliver Tambo. They based their ideas on African nationalism. They introduced a program of action calling for strikes, boycotts, and defiance, adopted by the ANC in 1949. In 1959, a minority group within the ANC, known as the Africanists, broke away and formed the Pan-African Congress that is today a political party. On 30th March 1960, the ANC was banned by the apartheid government and a state of emergency declared. A year later, in 1961, the ANC took up arms against the government. And in 1985, the ANC called on township residents to make townships ungovernable by destroying the black local authorities. In February 1990, the government lifted the ban on the ANC and other organizations. In 1991, Nelson Mandela was elected president and Oliver Tambo elected national chairperson. In April 1994, the ANC won the first historic elections with 62.2%. On the 10th of May 1994, Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as the President of South Africa.
24 minutes into the hour, you're watching Africa Live. Let's take a short break. Coming up, we sampled Rwanda's cuisine in part 2 of our series on eating around Africa.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself. If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Diplomatic relations between Mogadishu and Abu Dhabi took a new shift on Friday after Somali Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble apologized to the United Arab Emirates for the seizure of close to $10 million in 2018. The money had been confiscated at Mogadishu airport by security agencies. The Prime Minister also promised to return the funds, but just hours later, the directive was turned down by the Somali President. Mohamed Kahir reports from the capital, Mogadishu.
Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble said his country is ready to open a new page in restoring bilateral relations with the Gulf state after two Arab League members' ties worsened following the April 2018 incident.
I want to assure our brotherly state of the United Arab Emirates that we have the money that was seized and we are ready as a government to give it back any time for collection, and we are very sorry about what happened and ready to open a new page.
In a new twist, President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo ordered the governor of the central bank not to release $9.6 million. In a statement, the office of the president said the money in question posed a threat to nation's security and the stability of the financial systems in the country. The diplomatic analyst applauded the gesture by the Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble in mending relations with the United Arab Emirates, but suggested other channels could have been employed.
It was a great move to restore relations with UAE and its other allies such as Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, who were not on good terms with President Farmajo's government. It was recommended for the Prime Minister to resolve the contentious diplomatic matters that resulted in the tensions through other mechanisms such as cabinet meetings.
Somalia and the United Arab Emirates enjoyed a strong diplomatic ties cemented by the founder of UAE, Sheikh Zayed Sultan Al Nahyan, but the relationship soured in 2017 after Somalia took a neutral stand following the Gulf diplomatic crisis. Mohamed Kahir, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
West African leaders are today gathering in Ghana's capital, Accra, to discuss Mali's political crisis. The military junta submitted a new time frame for a transition back to civilian rule at the last minute after its first proposal was rejected. Regional bloc ECOWAS is expected to discuss possible sanctions on the Sahel state. ECOWAS will be discussing the potentially delayed elections, among other issues. The meeting comes after months of increasing tensions over the timetable for restoring civilian rule in Mali. Army officers led by Colonel Assimi Goïta toppled elected President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in August 2020 amid street protests against his unpopular rule. Under threat of sanctions, Goïta subsequently promised to restore civilian rule through an election in February 2022, but he staged a de facto second coup in May 2021, forcing out an interim civilian government. The move disrupted the reform timetable and was met with widespread diplomatic condemnation. The government then suggested a transition period of between 6 months to 5 years from January 2022, following a reform conference in December, a suggestion that ECOWAS says needs to be revised. Right, so it's time now to go to another episode of Eating Around Africa. For today, we're headed to Rwanda. The country is not only blessed with a beautiful landscape, but an out-of-this-world talented chef. Let's see what Asatal has in store for us.
Hey there, it's Asta Tao. And that's right, I'm here in another African country to explore its culinary traditions. Today, I'm in the land of 1,000 hills, also known as Rwanda. And I'm starting off my journey in the capital, Kigali. And I'm super excited to get to taste the food and also to learn a bit more about Rwanda's culture. And who knows, I might find some hidden talent in its valleys. Come on, let's go check it out. Justin.
Hey, Asta, how are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying some coffee right now.
Good, yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing great. And you?
Good. So, Justin, you do something that's a bit interesting, right? You're a cultural expert.
Yeah, right.
What is that?
That's a good question. So I provide cultural orientation for people coming to live and work here in Rwanda. So I kind of help them understand basic cultural, values, mannerisms, and behaviors to help them, connect and relate well with Rwandans.
So I need a bit of cultural orientation because I'm here in Rwanda. I want to explore the food culture. I'm going to have to interact with a lot of Rwandese. I want to learn the mannerisms. I don't want to offend anybody. And I think an art center is a great place to explore culture, right?
I know, yeah, you're right.
All right, let's go then.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you kind of deal with a lot of different international clientele. Is there kind of some points where they're like, this is so confusing. Why is this person doing this?
We are a very, non-expressive culture, like in speaking and just day-to-day life. So with non-expressive, we tend to hide our feelings and emotions, and we are encouraged to do that.
It's a very private culture.
Yeah, it's a very private culture. Yeah, it's a really, private culture. Yeah.
Does that translate into how people go out to eat?
We don't eat in public. It's not illegal, but we don't eat in public. And if you do that, then you'll be kind of flown upon, and people think that you don't respect yourself.
Now this is what I like.
Oh.
I love portraits.
It's beautiful. Yeah,
absolutely.
I also like it.
Yeah?
After an amazing conversation with Justin, I feel ready to explore Rwanda's culinary scene. And what better place to start off with than with brochettes? You can find brochettes being made just about anywhere in Rwanda. They're actually the country's national dish. Chef Olivier has been whipping up brochettes at Red Sky Restaurant for the past 2 years. Before putting any brochettes on the grill, Chef Olivier makes sure to marinate them with his own recipe. He serves beef, chicken, fish brochettes, as well as a true Rwandese delicacy, zingalo or goat intestine brochettes.
Well, there's a lot more of Kigali to explore, including a rising chef in Africa's culinary scene. Let's take a ride through the city to meet up with Jovel Malonga. Let's go.
So I'm Jovel Malonga. I'm from Congo. I grew up in Germany. I've learned Germany. And now I'm in Rwanda. And we have our restaurant, Meza Malonga. We serve Afrofusion cuisine. I was trained in Germany. I did like 3 years in the school, culinary school. And also I did 2 years in pastry in France. So it's like the skills I have, like I use it in the product we have here and in the region, exactly. I've worked in Michelin star, many Michelin, even 3, 2, and 1. Was a good experience. I've learned more, but I think I don't like this pressure that this Michelin star they have. I like, no. I want to be free. I want to share. I want to feel free. I want like I don't know. Yeah, I want to feel like people that are coming at home and eat. They focus on the food. After in France, and I start to travel around Africa to understand more African cuisine. I took like 2 years, and I visited more than 38 countries to understand more about African cuisine because it's huge. When I travel, I bring spices for different countries, and when we're here, what we do like to mix, to find the equilibration and what can what ingredients can match with another one to create some like a new savor or something. And unfortunately, like when we opened, it was a COVID time. Like we started with challenge. We opened in March, and 2 weeks after that was COVID. That was not easy for us. You know, when you're a chef, you want to cook. That was time that everything was closed and you can do nothing. That was, I think, that the highest challenge. But yeah, look at you, what you are doing now. We are now in the 100 best chef. That was not in our mind. Our mind was just, okay, let's cook and share the food we have. That makes me happy to see that my team are doing good work. So my lovely place to be or like to work is in Musanze. In Musanze, firstly, what I love is the climate. And you have all these mountains. I like this rural life. But here people take time. Hey, they ask, how are you? How are your family? And all the things, you know. That things make me more joy. And the rest is like decoration, you know. But it's very important, like to know your people that are doing well, yourself. I think that's it. I like to have the approach with all farms, like understand how it's look like how is it, like how people wake up in the morning to go to fish, to understand all of this narrative, how it works. The Musanze ecosystem menu came after when we studied the product that we have in Musanze, and that's why we create all this menu, like to use all the ingredients we can find here. That's why we study to understand and to taste what we can match with which spices, with vegetable. That's why we create this amazing Musanze ecosystem menu. The new chef, like me and another chef on the continent, now we are trying to talk about our own food. Before was people talking about our food. They didn't know exactly the real food. But we are preparing this time that when people will come to visit Africa, to give them the real story about the amazing food culture we have. But
I start off the Musanze ecosystem menu with a reimagined mango salad, chips with edible flowers pressed in, peas pressed into the shape of a donut, and you guessed it, bread with edible flowers. For a taste of seafood, I dig into shrimp and calamari, which rest on top of a cauliflower puree with air made from peas to top it off.
Amazing. Wow. To think you can have just so much, such a little dish, and every single bite, it's a different flavor. It's a different little adventure. It's light with a calamari. That was just so sweet. And the mousse itself, the bubbles, the mousse that you see, it actually, it's like a little bubble action in your mouth as well. This is so beautiful. I remember seeing this on the Instagram page when I was kind of going through Maison Malonga, and
Yep, a picture-perfect beef tartare with a carrot puree.
So now we have coffee cream from Rwanda, and we have a bread we did with coffee, we have caramel, and we have chips from chocolate.
awesome. Why don't you pop a seat? And how, like, I was saying something that was so interesting, like when I was kind of taking a bite of each meal, was the texture. Like the tartare was like just as smooth as the carrot puree. Is that something you think about when you're like creating these menus and stuff like that?
You know, when we create a menu, we take like 1 week just for one menu. Like we taste. And the very important is like to get a good taste, and after to work on texture, and after texture and how we plate is like four types. Firstly, to find the ingredients. Number two, to create, to get a taste, and the last one, how to present.
And then another thing that I've noticed whenever I'm talking about you, you say we. You never say I. And even I notice you don't kind of present every single dish. You kind of have other people present. How important is that for you to like, because a lot of people would feel like, I'm the best, I want to be the best.
You know, like I can say beyond the product is with farmers, and we have people, they do transport to bring vegetable here. We have teams like, for one dish you can have like 100 people behind, like to work. That was like a big team. Yeah, that's why I say like we, it's not just me. I'm presenting the work for many people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jafar. I think I'm gonna dig into this dish of 100-man team. Thank you so much. All right, have a great evening.
Thank you.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
The President of the Republic of Congo has called on the international community to support African countries to start manufacturing COVID-19 vaccines. President Denis Sassou Nguesso made the appeal while meeting members of the diplomatic corps in his country's capital, Brazzaville. His call comes amid the spread of the coronavirus in the Central African nation. CGTN's Christo Chamringa has that report from Kinshasa.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise in the Republic of Congo. Health authorities have been recording an average of 169 cases daily. The highest number of daily cases was recorded on January 2nd. The country's president, Denis Sassou Nguesso, has urged the international community to help African countries to produce vaccines on the continent. He requested them to not only accompany Africa in the acquisition of vaccines, but also in the production. Most of the COVID-19 vaccines shipped to Africa are produced in Europe and the US. Last year, China signed a joint partnership with a company in Algeria and Egypt to start manufacturing COVID vaccines. The companies have already produced more than 1 million doses. The recent emergence of the Omicron variant has led to a rise in COVID-19 infections around the world. The Republic of Congo has recorded more than 21,000 cases and 369 deaths since the start of the pandemic. Christo Chamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
The Egyptian government is accelerating efforts to move offices to a new administrative capital that's located east of Cairo. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi directed the government to start the actual transfer to the government district in the new administrative capital from late 2021, and the city is getting ready to receive millions of Egyptians. CGTN's Yasser Hakim has the latest.
Egypt's government has finally convened its first ever cabinet session at the new administrative capital on Thursday, December 23rd. This kickstarts the gradual process to relocate government offices and workers to the city east of Cairo, but is also the core of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's strategy for rebuilding the North African country.
This is the birth of a new state with the inauguration of the new capital. The new capital marks the birth of the Second Republic. We thereby announce the new Republic of Egypt as we inaugurate the new capital, and the government moves to its new headquarters.
Construction work on the $20 billion administrative capital was launched in 2016. Made to host over 6.5 million people, the smart city is divided into several districts, including residential, recreational, diplomatic, and government districts.
We are building the new administrative capital for several reasons, mainly to ease congestion and overpopulation from Cairo and to create better and modern living communities in a fourth-generation city. Following the relocation of the government, the second phase will be Parliament, the Senate and Presidency. So we will have the legislative, the executive and the jurisdiction authorities there.
What stands out is the glamorous business district built by China's State Construction Engineering Corporation, with 20 impressive skyscrapers, large parks and high-tech infrastructure where local and international private sector conglomerates would reside. The Chinese developer is also building the iconic tower, the crown jewel of the new administrative capital. The nearly finished 385-meter tall structure is the highest of its kind in Africa. It's a multi-service building with malls and shopping centers, offices and residential floors, as well as a high-end hotel chain.
We have developed a lot of advanced technology to finish this great project. The first is the high-strength concrete. We developed the mixture of the C80 high-strength concrete, use local materials. This is the highest strength concrete that ever applied in Egypt. The second technology we used is climbing foam work. This climbing foam work is mainly used to construct the concrete core wall. This is a platform which will provide a safety environment for the laborers, and also this will improve the efficiency of all the labors. So now we can reach the speed of 4 days.
Officials say the first stage of the relocation process takes place throughout 2022, moving about 40,000 employees to their new offices in 37 government buildings at the new capital. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
An update of our top story at this hour. A government source in Nigeria has told AFP news agency that the death toll in the bandit attack in northwestern state of Zamfara is now at 200. The bandits reportedly attacked several villages after military airstrikes on their hideouts earlier in the week. No group has yet claimed responsibility for Saturday's attack. Coming up in sports news. It's 26 days to the Winter Olympics and excitement is building up in Beijing. We'll tell you more.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
We begin with the Winter Olympics and